Or a facelift, got pushed playing Walter White and Davis, never felt so dangerous. The type of power they can't quantify. They name the best from our region, you gotta utter mine. Think of who really putting on, you never come to mind. Rapping like your Spotify, tap you rappers compromise. Yeah, no need to panic, just paint the canvas. If you can feel the static, too close, find your balance. Embed the revolution for their prohibition bandwidth. Blood trickle from the leaders he was planning. I had them all down before I dialed up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I had them all down before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. Boy, that flight to Amsterdam. With my accountant and minus, my family found out too and didn't like it. You're not in the salon with Dale said, and I thought he was biased. Then I got a Venmo that said copy the finest. Before my foolishness settled in, recorded a whole tape before we got to Berlin. This close to giving up and now never again. Don't overlook the work and come expecting to win. In the end, my word, never put nothing over the squad. Got it right up under their nose and try to facade.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Live and Coffee, Current Events and Politics in Lukman Nation. Today's Saturday. I don't remember what the date is. Don't ask me. I don't know. I've been in this house every day this week. I don't know what the hell today's date is. And come on, let's be honest. Neither do you. So that's cool. We are in the bunker together, but we're so glad that you are with us this Saturday evening. This conversation is going to be so good. I'm so excited about this. But before we get to that, I want to thank you all so much for joining us here in Lukman Nation. If you like what you see, like what you hear in Lukman Nation, please consider becoming a patron. You can find us on patreon.com/Lukman Nation, LUKMANNATION. If you have not done so already, please subscribe to us on YouTube. We are at 976 subscribers. We'd love to get to 1,000. So we'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to us on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter at Lukman Nation, the number 1, no spaces, and you can like us on Facebook under Lukman Nation for as long as Zuckerberg will keep political folk on the left on Facebook. We shall see. So that's all of the advertising stuff I've got to do. If you've been paying attention to the news at all this week, capitalism has been at the forefront of the news, whether the media has called it that or not. That's what's been going on. The exposure of the complete irrationality of capitalism has been definitely front and center in the news. And we're going to talk about that today with my friend and comrade, Dr. Cherise Bernstelli. Say hello to everyone, Dr. Bernstelli.
Hey, y'all. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you to the People's Prophetess for having me on. I am so excited to dig into this bullshit.
Look, she gave me this nickname, the People's Prophetess, and I don't know what to do with it, but I'm claiming it. I'm claiming it. I thank you. I thank you so much. So, look, Cherise, tell everybody who you are, where they can find you, where they can follow you, and give us an idea of who Dr. Cherise Bernstelli is.
Okay. My name is Cherise Bernstelli. I am an assistant professor of Africana Studies and Political Science at Carleton College. I'm currently the 2020-2021 visiting scholar with the Race and Capitalism Project at the University of Chicago. But more importantly, I am on the coordinating committee of the Black Alliance for Peace, join BAP. It is the best decision I have ever made. I am one of the editors for the newly launched Black Agenda Review, which is a feature on the website Black Agenda Report. And you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Black Left AF. And that's enough.
Right, yeah, because I don't want there to be a whole lot of time left on the floor that we are not talking about these issues. Real quick, I just want to say hey to everybody in the chat. So far, Lisa, Ricky, Stanford, Joel, Leah, T. Davis, David Silberg, Mac, Nikita, Y'all, thanks so much for joining us, and all y'all silent lurkers over there, just to let you know how the chat works, no matter what platform you're on. If you are watching us on Twitter, on YouTube, or on Facebook, all of the chats get synthesized into this one chat in Restream. So, and they don't get saved. So it's okay. You can say all kinds of whack shit up in this chat, and and it'll disappear. I can disavow any knowledge of it. So, all right. Dr. Bernstelli, I watched the whole GameStop gate thing with a lot of interest this week. I mean, I know there was a whole lot of other stuff going on, with the politicians on the Capitol, the crazy racist white lady threatening folks, and the Democrats and the Republicans acting like they didn't know that she was the unhinged psychopath that she's always been. But sure they did. They knew. That has been going on. Obviously, continued fallout from January 6th, and the level of coordination these people had, and the involvement of off-duty police, retired police, active duty military, retired military, like surprise, surprise. That's all been going on. And Joe Biden being Joe Biden,
more deaths to man.
I mean, I can't even be mad at Biden, like, pulling the wool over anybody's eyes, because we fucking told you. I mean, I don't understand. Anyway, that's a show for another day, okay? Because I could go, we could go off way on a tangent on that. But this whole GameStop stock thing was really fascinating to me. And when I saw it happen, I like immediately thought, I wonder how many people are going to completely miss that the way these people were able to freak out the professional financial analysts is the clearest indication that we've had in a while that capitalism is irrational, the free market isn't free, and the whole system is bullshit. I mean, Did you get that feeling when you saw this kind of thing unfold? And what were your initial thoughts when you saw it unfold?
Well, my initial thoughts were, what the fuck is a short position, right? So like most other people, I had to read up and figure out what was going on. But what I will say is, I think that in the final analysis, irrespective of how people feel about, the Redditors, taking this position on GameStop, I do think it reveals the contradictions of casino capitalism. One of the contradictions, for example, is the response of Robinhood, right? Trying to stop these people from being able to make particular trades on their app. And so what that reveals is, number one, the strong power that tech capital has, that the financial capital has, and that we call it the ruling class because they literally make the rules, right? And so the reason why they're able to hoard wealth and to continue to play with our money and our livelihoods like it's just a game is because they make the rules, they fund the politicians, and anytime we make any modicum of gain, they move the goalposts. And so I think, the other thing that I've sort of been thinking about is, does the reaction of not only the hedge funds, but the politicians signal that there might be an imminent collapse of the stock market again? Because the other thing that we need to consider is that these hedge funds will get bailed out. And so when we're thinking about the revolutionary possibility or whatever, or the organizing potential of these types of moves, we really need to understand that in the final analysis, there will be another redistribution of wealth upwardly, because the banks will bail the government will bail Wall Street out. They don't give a fuck about these Redditors. And once all of this stuff calms down, it is ordinary people that will be left holding the bag. They don't have the political position to get bailed out, but the hedge funds absolutely do. And so I think that we need to keep that in mind as well. And the third thing I've been thinking about is, like, who are these Redditors? Like, what is the actual demographic, right? I think of these white male nerds sitting behind their screen, doing what they do. And so it's like, okay, so who is actually benefiting from this type of action? And why is it that this type of action is getting more attention than the scores of labor strikes that have been happening in late 2020 and early 2021? I can talk about that more later. But why is it that we prioritize certain types of organizing or certain types of offensive, but then criminalize or completely ignore others? So those are just some of the thoughts that immediately come to mind.
I mean, and that last thought, the last two, I think, hit the nail on one of many nails that hit the nail on hit the head on many nails that I have pinned in this conversation. Because, like, I've been thinking about what you said, the composition of these Redditors. Now, look, I think I have to start by saying I'm not mad at anybody who was able to beat capitalists at their own game. Good for you. Good for you. I'm glad. That's wonderful. Here's the problem with that, though. People have been looking at what these folks have done, and they have conflated it with this idea that they've shown us how to, one, democratize the market. You can't democratize something that is fundamentally not democratic. That it's like reforming the Democratic Party. I don't understand why people still, but okay. And I want to get into why the market is not, it's neither free nor democratic in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the composition, the class composition of these Redditors gives us a hint as to why you can't democratize the market. Anybody who tells you that they're doing that with anything, they're lying, because while a lot of these people did, invest a couple $100, there were more than a few folks who were able to invest a couple $1,000.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And there were quite a few of those folks. One guy, the guy who started it, excuse me, like 2 years ago, he started talking about GameStop. He was able to invest $58,000.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have a pretty good job. They pay me all right, but I don't have $58,000 saved up. I mean, I have an uncle who retired from GM as, I think it was a regional manager or something or other. The brother made six figures. Pretty sure he doesn't have $58,000 not to invest in the stock market,
right?
Which is not. I don't care what anybody says, but this is what the capitalists tell you. They try to prop the stock market up as some type of viable avenue for generating revenue. And that's true for people who have $58,000 to invest.
Mm-hmm.
But that ain't true for me. It ain't true for you. It's not true for anybody, I am sure, watching this, because we don't have that kind of money to invest in something that is not a sure thing. And nothing in the stock market is a sure thing.
Yep.
It's a gamble. It's all a gamble. It's all a risk. So when I look at the fact that there were so many of these Redditors who, yeah, good for them. They ran the professional hedge fund managers. They're not bankrupt because, like you said, they're going to get bailed out by the government. But they are going to have to pay out billions of dollars to these people. A lot of these people weren't working class and poor folks like us. They're not. They're just not. They are the petty bourgeoisie who really are happy that they have figured out how to be better capitalists.
Yeah.
They're, and that's how I kind of see that. I don't see these people as saying we need to destroy this system where most people don't have access to, gaining these kinds of returns. But they're saying, good for us, we stuck it to the man because we figured out how to make as much money in the same system that they have. And that just doesn't seem like, that doesn't do anything to change the system for me, Dr. Bernstelli.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. And let me tell you something. You know who's cheering on these Redditors? Elon Musk.
Ooh,
okay?
Oh, the guy
Elon
whose
Musk.
stock price keeps going up, who doesn't actually provide anything but that one car that most people can't afford to buy?
Well, because, a few months back, the hedge funds were shorting Tesla stock. And this
That's
is when he
right.
got in trouble with the SEC
Mhm.
for basically, artificially driving his price up when he made whatever tweet that he made about Tesla stock. And so anything that Elon Musk, the ghoul Elon Musk, is cheering on, I am skeptical of, right? And certainly anything that he's cheering on is not going to be something that is going to collapse the system or something that's going to redistribute wealth in any fundamental way. So that's point one. Point two is that the stock market, theoretically, right, is supposed to be for the allocation of capital into different firms. It is not supposed to be about betting on whether or not a company will fail. That is taking an anti-social position, right? And that is the way we see the domination or the hegemony of finance capital over other forms of, other forms of at least job producing capital, right? So we've also not seen a robust critique of this whole short position apparatus anyway, right?
Right.
Not least because if we recall, part of the collapse of the housing market previously had to do with the creation of the mortgage-backed securities against which people are taking these short positions. And so I think that instead of, cheering on these Redditors for, being these whatever quotidian cowboys and taking on the hedge funders, we really need to have a robust critique of the system itself, as you're saying, and of this practice of taking a short position anyway. So I just feel like, as you said, as we were talking about before we hopped on, like, Americans have no class analysis, Americans have no class consciousness, and over again act as class collaborators. And I think that this is really, really problematic. And the foundation of that is because it's this American, this Horatio Alger luck and pluck bullshit that, if you have a little hard work and, some skills and luck, you can make it too. And this is precisely what the narrative is with this whole GameStop fiasco. And the other thing, aside from money, is time. Because, I was listening to the show that I think you did yesterday, and the woman that you had on talked about how they were saying, like, oh, this whole Reddit thing is like QAnon with the Bloomberg plugin. You have to have time to sit to even trade on Robinhood. You have to sit there and have time to figure out how the stock market works, to figure out, to research these stocks. And as we know, given the nature of the pandemic, especially women, especially racialized women, have less and less time to do anything but try to work their job, if they even were able to keep their jobs, and to take care of kids, and to take care of sick loved ones, etc. And so it's just, I feel like it is and especially people calling this the French Revolution. That is asinine to me. I just can't, I don't see this as anything sort of liberatory or anything, any sort of strategy we need to be adopting. And again, why isn't it that the grassroots organizing, the union, the union organizing, there's the strikes, the labor stoppages that are happening, why aren't these getting as much fanfare and as much attention, when these are actually the ways in which workers will gain power and workers can improve our structural material conditions? So that's the question that I have.
I mean, but you're right though, in what people, and we understand that the media is owned by, what is it? It's down to 6 corporations now that are all tied to one of the 2 political parties. They're all plugged into this political system. So the media apparatus in this country is, their job is to push out propaganda that benefits the empire and benefits the empire remaining exactly the same. So, we don't expect for MSNBC or CNN, and certainly not Fox News or any of these other outlets or any of the major newspapers in this country, whether they're digital or tangible, they're also owned. All media in this country is owned by 6 corporations, all of it. So we're not expecting them to talk about, to cover the prison strikes that happened all last year and some, through the year before. We don't expect them to cover the massive longshoreman strike that happened in San Diego or San Francisco, where the port is in California, which was incredibly historic. All the other labor strikes that you talk about, the Amazon strike, you know, of course, we don't expect them to report any of that. So then when you look at what they're not reporting, then you have to ask yourself, why are they seizing on this story like this? Because what it does to me, Cherise, is it continues to convey this idea, like you said, this quotidian cowboy kind of I like to call it the Protestant worth ethic. It is what's the word I'm looking for? It's confirming the idea that if you work hard, you know, look at what these people did. Yes, Robin Hood is bad, and then you've got people who are looking at the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, possibly investigating Robin Hood and other independent investment companies for stopping trades on these stocks. Now you got people talking about, oh, the SEC is on our side. What the fuck? The SEC is not on your side.
Where was the SEC's? Where was their antennas when Wall Street collapsed the global economy? Like, the FBI is not on our side. The SEC is not on none of these alphabet boys are on our side.
I mean, period. I just when I saw that, and this was in one of those like progressive-ish online groups on Facebook. I'm like, what are y'all talking about? The SEC. Look, guys, the SEC is on our side. No, the SEC is not on your side, because the Securities and Exchange Commission understands. Now, capitalists are extremely class conscious. They are really clear on the class consciousness of the people they are protecting. So they understand that this group of Redditors represents such a small threat to the system that they're like, yeah, fine, we'll let you file your class action suit against Robin Hood, because that has happened. There's a class action suit brewing. They're like, yeah, fine, we'll let you do these little trades, and we'll let you give a couple of hedge fund managers the run for their money, but we know that most of y'all are broke. So most of you honestly don't have enough money to pose any real threat to this system, because like you said, the Securities and Exchange Commission understands that the federal government, the United States government, is always going to make sure that the capitalist underpinnings of this system do not fail.
Period.
And that it's just so it's crazy to watch people. I mean, it was just as weird watching people, giving people information to the FBI about these. Oh.
Listen, let me just butt in here, okay? I saw some tweet where some man, I don't know, one of the whites was talking about he's putting in $50,000 for anybody who could catch the brown man who was one of the head organizers of the insurrection on January 6th. And I'm like, okay, you mean to tell me they listen in on everything, okay? They spy on everything, and they still need ordinary people to do their fucking job? That sounds like a grift to me. Why do you need us to tell when you have everything at your disposal to just find these people? It's not as if they're hiding. I guess the one dude is, but it's like they were taking pictures. It was like,
right. Hey, I just smashed the window of the Capitol.
So why is it? Yeah, but this is a conundrum, is that our country is so white supremacist that we as racialized, oppressed people, we want to challenge white supremacy, and that can put us in strange bedfellows with the FBI, and we're wanting to align with the state to get these white supremacists, because we want to see them subjected to the same types of punishment to which, us racialized protesters, and not even protesters, just ordinary, racialized and oppressed people are subjected to. But at the same time, the last thing we need to be doing is expanding the power of the state and helping them in any way. Like there's nothing laudatory about stool pigeonry, right? There's nothing
Yeah.
laudable about any of that. So it's like, do their fucking job. That's what they need to do. They have all of the laws, they have all of these resources, they have all of this technology. Like, stop asking people to help you. Like, do your job. I gotta do my job.
Exactly. I mean, when the FBI first made the announcement, oh, we need the public's help in finding these perpetrators at the U.S. Capitol, I immediately remembered when it was the FBI, I think, who tracked down the guy from Wisconsin and murdered him.
Yeah.
I mean, they murdered that comrade, a white guy who was a protester in from Wisconsin. They murdered him. They didn't apprehend him. So that ought to give you a clue as to what they will do to white folks who are allies to the Black struggle in whatever.
Nigger lovers.
Yeah,
they hate them. They hate them. They lynch them too.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, and they also this is an agency that was able to find someone they were looking for who participated in a protest through a T-shirt that she wore that she bought on Etsy. That's what the FBI can do. They don't need our help. And the fact that they prop themselves up as, we need the help of the American people. Please understand that they're playing you. They are playing you to make you feel like you are participating in democracy, to stop this terrible scourge from spreading that happened at the U.S. Capitol. But we're here to tell you there is no democracy. There's never been. Oh, that's let me get back on it.
Democracy.
I mean, that's why it's in quotations on that. I mean, just the level of lack of clear understanding. And I understand, Dr. Bernstelli, that not everybody is radical. I get that. That's fine. Not everybody understands the problem with not having a clear understanding that it is the capitalist system that is corrupt. It is not free. The market isn't free. It isn't equal. There's no equal access to that capital. There's no equal access to the ability to make capital. And in that regard, all by itself, the market isn't free. But the entire ideology of this country's government, of its policies, of its politicians, of everything these people do is founded upon this idea of the free market being best. And this is where I kind of feel like people have been swayed by like the shiny trinkets of capitalism, because who doesn't want to be rich, right? I mean, that was a rhetorical question, because nobody in the chat had better raise your hand, talk about me. You better not. We're going to have a conversation afterward. But you've got people who are seeing that a few folks of these Redditors have made so much money that they've been able to pay off student loan debt, that they've been able to afford, life-saving cancer surgeries, surgery for their spouse for multiple sclerosis and that kind of stuff. And when you see people celebrating that, Dr. Bernstelli, and it's like, yeah, that's what we all have to do, and you realize that's where people stop, then you realize that people really do not get the problem with capitalism. Yeah. That our problems can't be solved in the capitalist system. Our problems can't be solved in a capitalist system because there is unequal access to that capital. You have to get lucky in order to make enough money to have the kind of money that you need to meet your needs in the capitalist system. So what does that say, Dr. Bernstelli, for people who don't have that access?
Let me tell you something. As a descendant of a group that was once capital, and that was enslaved more than it was free. I think that we really need to. I'd be so blowed by black capitalists or black people who buy into the capitalist system, right? It's not gonna work because guess what? The Civil War was the largest expropriation in history. Unlike Great Britain and other places, the majority of slaveholders in the United States did not get recompensated. You know what their compensation was? Jim Crow, sharecropping, the repression of black people. So ever since 1865, they trying to get their shit back. And you know what that shit is? Us. Black freedom.
Exactly.
It's not gonna happen. Like it's not gonna happen for us. We gotta let that go. And guess what? I am so happy for old boy that was able to pay off his student loan debt. You know what? The government could cancel student loan debt for everybody. I think it's truly a blessing that somebody was able to get life-saving cancer surgery. You know what else can offer that? Medicare for all. And so thing is, we don't need to cheer on individual accumulation as our dreams for what's possible. You see, we pay taxes so that the government, not so that they can go kill racialized and oppressed and exploited people abroad, but so that they can take care of the well-being of folks here. That's literally what taxes are. That's what we're supposed to be paying for. And so instead of cheering on a few people who are able to individually get rich quick, perhaps we need to be making demands on the state, right? To get rid of this practice of short positions in the first place, to get rid of a system where a few very, very greedy firms can destabilize the whole economy. And moreover, I think the other thing that we probably want to be organizing around now is so that these hedge funds do not get bailouts. Because let me tell you something, they're going to get them, right? And that is something we need to be pushing back against now, because that has always been the case, and it will always be the case, right? Until we put pressure on the government, right? Until we put pressure on whatever administration is in office right now. It is the Biden one. So I just want to mention some of these strikes because again, there have been several, and this is just a sampling of the strikes and the sort of the labor actions that have taken place. So just the other day, the Teamsters in Local 202 walked off the job, and at Hunt Point Produce Market, which is apparently the largest produce market in the nation, and they actually won that action. They got their 100. Listen, you know what they're striking over? A $1.85 raise over 3 years.
What?
This is how greedy. Okay, look, $1.
$1.85, and they can't even have it all right now. They had to stretched out over 3.
That's 4 quarters. No, that's 6 quarters and a dime, I think. Okay, over 3 years. But that's life changing for some people. That's basically chump change to these people who own these corporations. But that was one strike. The United Steelworkers in Alabama Local 200 walked out of, Constellium aluminum plant on December 15th over unfair labor practices. They won that action. The Hawaii Nurses Association voted to strike over safety recently. Nurses in New Rochelle and Albany went on strike in December over stalled contract talks. There were 700 nurses who went on strike in Langhorne, Pennsylvania over low staffing due to low wages. You know, these officials had the nerve to criticize them for striking when the country and our local community is trying to contend with COVID-19. So instead of criticizing themselves for providing inadequate cover and providing inadequate PPE and working conditions, they're going to criticize the people who are striking for their lives, literally.
Right. How dare you want to work in better working conditions? How dare you?
You know, the faculty at Youngstown State went on a 3-day strike for higher pay in October. So they're in the meantime, corporations are using the pandemic to bust unions and to lock workers out, right? And so I think that these are the things that we need to be aware of. These are the things that we need to be that we need to pay attention to. So another thing that's really important, and there's an Amazon warehouse in Alabama that's seeking to unionize. And Amazon is trying to undermine their efforts at unionization by requiring them to vote in person, as opposed to being able to mail in their votes. And so the National Labor Relations Board voted that they would be able to mail in their votes Of course, Amazon is contesting this. Now, this is important because these are predominantly Black workers. This is in an area that was a former steel capital, so it was subjected to deindustrialization, which ultimately led to the weakening of industrial unions. And what this represents is the warehouse workers struggling to have unions make a comeback. And of course, Amazon ain't with that shit. So I think that these are the things that we do not hear about. These are the things that we don't know about. And yet we're celebrating, you know, a handful of nerds on Reddit making some money. Like, this is why I think class consciousness is so important, especially among us being Black, racialized, oppressed, and poor folks, because we have to disabuse ourselves of the thought that this system is for us and that we will benefit from this system in any way. So,
and you know what? I'm remembering something that somebody said to me, like, you know, Jackie, you do a lot of organizing, because I guess people think that I really don't understand what it is I believe, because they say the weirdest shit to me. Like, like, you know, Jackie, you and Ab, y'all are always doing stuff for the people. Y'all could do this and make some money and you know, feed the people and support and because the person was a really good friend, I did not cuss them out, but just the idea that there are some people, and this person does some organizing too, you know, in the state where they live. I'm trying not to call their name because I told them because they know how petty I am, because I will do it, but I said I wasn't gonna. So okay. But just the idea that here I am, anti-capitalist, pushing for socialism, because it is socialism that is going to save us. Socialism is going to provide for everyone's needs. Capitalism can't do that. Not because it doesn't want to, just because they're not gonna. Because capitalism does not exist to provide for the needs of all the people. Capitalism really does exist so the masses of people are exploited so that a small percentage of people can make all the money. That's what capitalism is. So what do I look like as somebody who is anti-capitalist, fighting for socialism, fighting for the liberation of our people, talking about, let's invest some Patreon money in GameStop and see if we can make some you know, make a windfall so we can buy some coats for the people. The fuck? What is wrong? Dr. Bernstelli, and that's not the first time. I've heard some variations on that. Please explain to people why that is ridiculous and will not work if we're seriously talking about liberating our people.
Well, first of all, so you spoke earlier about us being, you know, as a group, we don't have $15,000, $50,000 to invest in the stock market. We also don't have that to lose. That is some people's entire salary. That is more than some people's entire yearly salary. We can't be playing around like that. And the thing is, to me, this is connected to this whole, like, this leadership mentality that somebody needs to go out and do something big, and then they will, you know, they'll dole out whatever patronage or whatever resources they're able to acquire for the community. This is not how this works, right? We need a lot of people doing a lot of stuff on the ground, not some, you know, Hail Mary, or not some, you know, hopeful investment in the stock market to hopefully make it big and then hopefully be able to redistribute some of that money. That just seems ass backwards to me. And I feel like we really need to abuse ourselves of this idea that the rich or the wealthy or the affluent are going to save us.
Not even if the rich and wealthy or affluent are us. I mean, listen, I'm not going to sit here and say, you know, I would not like to have all this money at my disposal, but how do I get it? And on whose back would I get it? Because there's no way in this capital system that I could make $14 million and a bunch of people are not exploited. That it just does not work that way. It just doesn't. And then, I mean, seriously, if we understood the concepts of communal living in the first place, And if we had an economic system in this country that did see everyone's needs as human rights, the need for housing, healthcare, clean air, clean water, a job, a decent job as human rights, then the government would provide those things and we wouldn't have to be hoping on, a casino bet, because I swear to God, y'all, that's what the stock market is. I mean, it's like walking into Haraz. Is Haraz even still open? I don't know. In Atlantic City, with your last paycheck, hoping that you gonna, strike it big on blackjack. You're doing the same thing. It's the exact same thing.
It is.
And just like casinos, the house will always win.
Yeah.
The house is never gonna let everybody who comes into the casino take money from it. The house always wins.
Yeah. And this is why, Walter Rodney, for example, wrote about how Europe underdeveloped Africa. These are relational processes, right? Manning Marable wrote how capitalism developed Black America. So it's not at this idea that some intrepid person just gets this money because of hard work. That is a myth. That is a myth. We have capitalist classes, and then we have the rentier class, because all intellectual property is rent. Okay? Bill Gates invented some shit a long time ago. One time, or maybe he invented a few things. I'm not certain. And now he's collecting rent. Every time we use Microsoft Word, every time we use any of this technology, it's straight. That's all it is. And so they are a rentier class, right? And this is the thing about, and so coming back to this conversation about the free market. Let me tell you what the invisible hand of the free market is.
Oh, yes.
The invisible hand of the market is the government.
Oh, say it again.
The invisible hand of the market is the government. It's the government defending capital against society. That's the invisible hand. And it always has been and always will be. And we call this, and so when people say that, what called blah, 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 the socialism for the rich, fuck that. It's called monopoly state capitalism, because the state is harnessing its power and resources on behalf of capital and defending it more and more against society. And it does this nationally and it does it globally. This is why, for example, anytime the United States goes to, or a corporation goes to invest in, let us say, the Congo or Kenya or anywhere in the world, part of what they're doing, part of what they bring with them is a private security firm, because because capital needs to be defended against society. And so I think, and this happens all of the time, right? This is how the system works. And so when we talk about neoliberalism as the rollback of the state, it doesn't mean that the state is no longer, it means that the state becomes more disembedded from society to do more and more work on behalf of capital. It does not mean that the state has no function. It means that all of that power continues to be harnessed on behalf of an increasingly small but increasingly powerful class of elites. So that's the invisible hand.
I'm so glad you said that. Because back in the day, before I knew what the heck I was doing on this platform, I did this series on neoliberalism. And I learned about, and I'd heard about, Milton Friedman and the Chicago Boys and this idea, this concept of neoliberalism, and how they explain the free market and the invisible hand of the market correcting the course of the market when there was too much risk, the market was too volatile, all that kind of stuff, that the market would benevolently and all on its own, correct any kind of extreme fluctuations one way or the other, to ostensibly to protect you and me. That's the way it's explained, this invisible hand of the market. But the invisible hand of the market is really, like you said, the government, and the market doesn't regulate itself. And it certainly doesn't regulate itself to protect any of us. It regulates itself to protect the people who control the money in the market. That's not us. That is not us. So the Securities and Exchange Commission possibly, I don't know, censuring or fining Robinhood or, you know, whomever stopped trading on these stocks. Okay, but they're not doing that because they are looking out for individual investors like us, if we want to be individual investors. They're not doing that to look out for the little guy. They're doing that to look out for the people who fund the apps like Robinhood.
Period.
And let me explain to people just real quick before we go into this other thing. These investment apps, I have one. I use Acorns, and Acorns is really easy, a really easy way for me to save a couple of bucks, you know, from the change that I have left over from, you know, on, you know, transactions I make, because honestly, I don't feel like looking at my bank account every day. So that's how I save money. It's one of the ways I save money. It's a really easy way to do it. I don't have to think about it. That thing is not going to make me a whole bunch of money because I don't have a whole bunch of money to put in investments. Same thing with Robinhood. So if you download these apps, folks, and they're free, you don't have to pay for them. It's not like in the 90s when you had to go to a brokerage firm and you had to pay them a fee for every transaction. That's not so anymore. Who do you think is paying for the development of these apps, the marketing, the platforms they're on, the licensing? If they're free to you and me, and the companies say they don't get a commission from the transactions, where do you think they're getting the money to do all this from? They're getting it from the same people who are controlling the market. So of course Robinhood is going to suspend trading on GameStop because it's a threat to their investors. And yes, some of the investors in Robinhood were heavily invested in. So come on, all of it. We're talking about I don't think you have to understand the ins and outs of how the stock market does and does not work, and how trading does and does not work, to understand, to have a fundamental understanding that the capitalist system that this so-called free market is supposed to be the representative of is really just an exploitative money-making vehicle for, a, like Dr. Cherise Bernstelli just said, a very small number of people who control 80% of the value of the market, of the stock market, and they have all of the power. You and I don't have the power to change those rules.
The other, well, we do, but it's called revolt. So, and not of the white supremacist variety. But the other, the only thing I want to add to what you said is, I forgot what I was about to say. Shoot, it was about capitalism. I remember in the democracy section, and I'll just circle back famously. I'll just circle back.
Cool. Yeah.
There's one more thing I did want to mention. Sorry, and this is something unrelated. So one of these other companies that the Redditors are defending from the short position is Bed Bath and Beyond.
Huh?
Okay. Isn't Bed Bath and Beyond one of these companies? It's like Bed Bath and Beyond.
I didn't know. Really?
AMC. I believe Bed Bath and Beyond is one of them. And what's interesting about Bed Bath and Beyond is that they shut down their call system, their call center in Utah, and displaced 286 workers and sent that work to the Philippines through a contractor. So the other thing we need to look at is, like, what are the labor practices of these brick and mortars that are being defended? And we know that when things are moving overseas, it's not for the enrichment of neo-colonized nations there, because they're paying them pennies on the dollar of what they would have paid people here, because that's the whole point of offshoring, is to stave off the declining rate of profit. And so that's another thing that we need to consider. Like, people are going hard for these corporations that had horrible labor practices, that continue to have horrible labor practices. And so we're in fact saving the people who are exploiting us. I think that's something else that needs to be
Yeah.
deeply considered. So that's the other thing I wanted to say.
No, that is a perfect point to make, because I think this ties into what we always talk about in Black Alliance for Peace and in every other organization that we're involved in. And I always have to tell you that I also am a member of Black Alliance for Peace. Just yeah. just the understanding that whatever benefits we think we can get from this government here, and I'm talking now just in general, if we happen to get Medicare for all, but we don't address the way this government, through the capitalist system that undergirds it, exploits other poor and working class people around the world, then we've won nothing. We have gotten our gains off of the exploitation of other people. So our class consciousness can't just be domestic. We have to have an international class consciousness and an international solidarity with all working class oppressed people around the world, because it's this government and its allies that's at the forefront of that. So thank you for that point. And thank you also for correcting me, because you're right. It's not that we don't have the power to change the rules. We can't change the rules to this capitalist system. We can change this system, though. We can, but we need to understand what we're working with. And I'm telling you, I'm feeling really weird about the ability to do that sometimes when I see stuff like this. And let me try to remember to let me see. Oh, is it even going to let me pull it up? Let me see. Let me see now. Let me see if I can find it. I can't find that ridiculous picture.
Oh God, is this an old girl? The poem girl?
Yes.
Carrie and Joe Biden.
And I have to find the whole picture because I really want people to see. Excuse me. But Dr. Bernstelli, the idea that this system, this government, is I can't find it right now. Doggone it. The idea that this government it exists on the idea that that this system is free, that it's equal, that everybody has equal access to the system. And that's what this idea of democracy is based on, right?
Mm-hmm.
That this government that this government is of the people, for the people, and by the people, and everybody has equal access of opportunity and equality of outcomes and all that bullshit. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that, a lot of that comes from this idea of the free market. We even our economics is democratized, and we've pointed out, I think, rather well how that's a complete lie.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, Dr. Bernstelli, but I think I have to go back and oops, I'm moving myself around. I don't mean to do that.
You have it on the flyer. Can you share the flyer?
I know. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to pull the flyer up again because I don't know any other way to share it. I thought I thought this through really well, but sometimes I just get a little bit overwhelmed. Let me see. All right, let's see if I can pop it over here. You gonna let me share this screen? And nope, not gonna let me do it. Let me try this other way.
Yeah, while you're looking for that in the chat, somebody asked a while ago why I use Black, racialized, poor, and oppressed, and not BIPOC.
Oh yeah, please explain.
Yeah, it's because I don't want to. Because racialization is a process, and I want to point to the processual and ongoing nature of racialization. So I use the term racialized people, and then Black people, because Blackness is a particular articulation of racialization, and then oppressed and poor people, because oppressed people are people who are around the world, and oppression is, one manifestation of exploitation. And poor people are, people who tend to be at the bottom of the economic hierarchy.
Right. Let's see. There it is. All right. There's part of it.
We can't see it, or I can't see it on my screen.
Oh, it is way too big. Well, this is not turning out the way I want it to. I'm very unhappy right now. Let's see. That's our friend Mawusi.
Racialized would be similar. There it is. Be similar to colonized. Yeah.
There we go. There it is.
I
apologize for the technical difficulties, y'all, and the delay in getting that up. But yeah. So, Dr. Bernstelli. I listened to this poem, to the inaugural poem, and no, that's not true. I didn't listen to it because I did not watch the inauguration because I didn't care. So I finally read the poem after I saw this image, and I thought, what the hell was in that poem that made somebody draw this? What the hell? And then I read the poem, and I was just like, oh my God, what the fuck? Is she serious? So I am really concerned about a couple of things. The way we once again are used, Black people, Black women in particular, are used as these, superhero figures saving democracy, a democracy that is not equal, that is not free, that isn't even really a democracy for us. But in particular, how this young woman, I don't even know. I mean, the whole thing is just such a mess when you look into her background. And at first I'm thinking, oh my God, they used her. But then I look into her background and I'm like, nope, I don't think they used her. I think she walked into this knowing exactly and she wasn't being used. She's a willing participant in holding up this system. So, I mean, if we don't understand the fact that capitalism, there's no such thing as a free market. It's not free. There is no equal access to economic anything, just like there is no equal access to political anything in this country. How are we still in this position where we're allowing ourselves to be represented as saving a democracy that don't exist to save us or do shit for us, really?
Let's be real. Black women are being positioned as the mammies of empire. Straight up. When you have this young Black girl carrying this white man, flying, nothing but a modern day version of Black women being the caretakers of empire. And I take exception to that. Our girl Ricky posted on Facebook about this Black woman who is trying to criminalize BDS. I forget her name. She's part of Biden's cabinet.
And let me just say, a lot of that, when you see Black people do that, especially older Black people have that position, a lot of that shit comes from the Christian church. I'm ashamed to say it. A whole lot of our Black churches, thank God I found one where we don't play that shit. And no. But
you see the political gymnastics Warnock had to do when they came for him over saying anything remotely positive about Palestine. And so it's like, it's Black girl magic, and it's like, the future is female and all of these sorts of things. Susan Rice is a bum too, Craig. No.
Yeah, but it's not her.
But when we have all of these narratives, I will never celebrate us using our power for evil. That is nothing. There is nothing laudable. There is nothing celebratory. There is nothing admirable about that. And so when we tell, when we tell, so the whole narrative around Obama, for example, and now around Kamala Harris is that now that there was a Black president, and now that there's a Black or multiracial female vice president, now our children can see that that's possible. Fuck that. I would never want that for my child. I ain't got no child. Probably for that reason, that I would crush those dreams. But I would not, and I think that we have all of these different organizations and clubs and pipeline programs to get, to funnel our children into these Black bourgeois liberal not only aspirations, but just to surround them by those type of people. And I think that that's a real tragedy. And I just don't find it to be laudable. And people, everybody was saying that Amanda Gorman was like the highlight of the inauguration and was the best thing about the inauguration. And I just find that to be horribly, horribly sad. These Purple Mountain Majesty ass Blacks who are riding for empire like that, they are not on our side. And they will never be. And something very, very important that Gerald Horne pointed out is that part of the reason why Biden is able to effortlessly sort of incorporate, first of all, part of the reason why the Democratic Party in general is able to court the Black vote is because in a general sense, Black people ain't got no foreign policy. They have no international orientation or international understanding. Right. And so they know that the more Black Americans that they have in their administration, the more fuckery that they can do abroad. And the Blacks are just going to be like,
right. They're going to be like, I'm 8OS. I'm FB.
Focusing on what, domestic gains, which are very, very important, but that is a problem. Capitalism and imperialism are global processes. And mind you, imperialism is a domestic process as well. Let's be clear. And so I think that people like Amanda Gorman, no matter how talented she is reinscribing this idea that our aspirations ought to be imperial and ought to be liberal and ought to be in the service of the state. And I think that that's whack.
Yeah, I mean, when you understand that imperialism is the highest expression of capitalism, it is, capitalism exported around the world at the point of a gun. That is what it is. And it's done for the sake of capitalism. You can't have a conversation about capitalism and its contradictions and failures domestically without talking about imperialism and what the United States government does around the world for capitalism to other, working class, poor and oppressed people. But, Amanda Gorman's poem was so shitty to me. Because, I mean, first of all, it was a bad poem. Can I just say that I'm not crazy about poetry?
Me either.
I'm just kind of not.
It makes me uncomfortable to feel feelings. I'm
really messed up like that because I'm just like, I mean, I just sing. Just don't recite poetry. I don't know what it is. I'm just weird like that. Like, please break out in song. But poetry is just, I just never really dug poetry that much. But I think I can tell bad poetry when I see it. And the poem was bad. It was so bad. It was like a stereotypical open mic kind of poetry slam night type of performance. And I'm like, when I finally did go back and watch the video, I'm like, oh, that's really bad. But then the poem itself seemed so ripped off of like America the Beautiful or, God Bless America. And, only with a little bit of acknowledgement that, yeah, we kind of screwed things up, but we're going to get back to doing things, doing good because that's who we are. And it just seemed like the biggest. It was such a con job. It was such an incredible. It was a propaganda piece. It was a well placed, very craftily played piece of propaganda that at first, like I said, I was like, man, they're using this young Black girl reciting this bad poetry. Why did they hype her up like this? They shouldn't have. But then when I found out about who Amanda Gorman is, now listen, y'all, I'm 53 years old and I'm not in the practice of going after younger folks because, you know, we all got to get to our consciousness in this struggle when we do, but she ain't even close to there. I don't have a problem with the fact that she went to Harvard. She did go to Harvard. That's fine, you know. But she was invited to speak or recite her bad poetry at Prada. And if you remember in 2019, right? So I don't know what y'all remember about Prada, other than the fact that I don't own any of their shit. I never will. I don't understand paying hundreds of dollars for a bag, a pair of shoes, a coat with somebody else's name on it. My mama was, for all intents and purposes, a seamstress. And she always said, if anybody's name is going to be on your ass, it better be yours. If you are going to wear anybody's name on your ass, it had better be yours. You don't need to wear. So just the idea of designer clothes is just, that's the most capitalist bullshit, you know, ever. But she was invited by Prada to recite her bad poetry there in 2019. And this was after the controversy with the blackface dolls that Prada had in 2018. Remember that? Let's see.
Yeah.
Let me see if
it was Prada and Gucci, or Gucci had a thing, and then, you know, I think it was it Calvin Klein had white folks coming down in dreadlocks, and it's a whole mess, you know. Or was it one of these design? Anyway, they all and they all be real surprised with the blackface, right?
I mean,
Gucci had a turtleneck. Yeah, Gucci had like a black turtleneck, and if you folded it up, it had big red lips, and it's like, why the fuck are y'all always surprised about blackface? Raggedy. There has never been a time when when Black people have not been offended by that. So
never.
I don't understand. I do understand. It's willful ignorance, but it's like, but for her to, but maybe she was trying to get her Prada coat for the inauguration.
Well, then, I mean, there's the thing about the Prada coat, because and again, she went there and spoke after that controversy in 2018, a year after, so she knew about it, and she went anyway, which I got a problem enough with that. But then we find out that the coat, you know, I'm looking at the coat, I'm like, hey, that's a very beautiful coat, because I love yellow, it's a lovely color. And then I'm told that the coat is a Prada coat, and that she, and I understand that sometimes these designers.
Jackie, do you hear your mic doing something a little bit wonky?
Is it? Let's see. Is that better?
No, it's still doing. It's like a robotic feedback.
Uh-oh.
Am I tripping?
I do not know. Has it guys, are you still hearing?
Yeah, it's like an echo.
Okay, let's see. Let me close things. All right, is that better? Has it gone away? Can you hear me?
It's still there.
It probably is the FBI, damn it. And like, let's see what she's doing now.
It's Prada.
It's Prada. Prada's like, that heifer is talking about us. Make her stop. Okay, well, I'm not sure what the audio issue is, folks. I'm hoping it gets a little better. All right, so let me try this. Let me unplug.
That's better.
Okay. All right. I think there's a little bit of delay with the feed.
Good.
Okay, cool. Very good. So then so what happened was, you know, I'm looking at the coat and I'm like, hey, it's a beautiful coat. I like yellow because it's beautiful color. You know, it's one of my favorite colors. And then I find out, that it's a Prada coat. And at first I thought, well, you know, these designer houses, they, you know, lend their clothes to people in, you know, these high profile. No, it wasn't even that. She bought that thing. That was a $1,600 coat. Now, I'm not down on this young sister because of her personal consumption, you know, choices. That's not the issue. But if you're there to represent an ideal, an ideology, what better way to reinforce the class exclusion than to have a young Black woman who graduated from Harvard University, who has recited her poetry for Prada, is wearing a $1,600 Prada coat and says she wore the Prada coat because she likes the company's stand on feminism. Now, to me, that's a whole lot of symbolism and messaging and propaganda, letting folks who are outside of all of those contexts know exactly where they fit in this administration. But I've spoke on it enough. Dr. Bernstelli, what do you have to say about the whole mess?
You said it all, but I think that's precisely the point, is that, you know, what we do, like what the state does is it gives the niggerati, right? The most polished, you know, the most elite, the most, you know, sort of trained Blacks a platform. Oh, side note, Kamala Harris's stepdaughter got a modeling. She got a modeling contract off the inauguration.
That's right.
So the other thing that it shows us is this sort of integration of the public and private sector, and the ways that you know, rich, you know, or affluent begets affluence, right? Mm-hmm. And so I just, you know, I'm not gonna lie, I have some designer things, you know, I do. You know, but it's like, if she was trying to support feminism, Angela Davis got a clothing line, you know, for whatever that's worth. And she could have worn Angela Davis sweatshirt, you know, she didn't have to wear a Prada, you know. But again, it's not about her aesthetic choices. She could wear whatever she wants. She could show up in a fucking Gucci Hermes burlap sack, whatever.
Right.
It's the confluence of circumstances that she pointed out that I think is problematic, right? It's the fact that it is the elite, what that cartoon conveys, and also the invitation, and also the ways in which she's been celebrated after the fact, is what it conveys is that it is the elite Blacks who have the responsibility, but then who also have the desire to polish this turd, as I always say, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that the point is very, very important, that it's not conscription. People, it is voluntary, right? Because something I point out is that for many of our people, they take that American and African American very, very seriously.
Very seriously.
You know, and as I've said previously, there is something called the but for logic, right? That the United States would truly be the best country on earth but for racism, right? And that the only struggle is racism. It is not capitalism. It is not anything other than racism, because racism is the only scourge on, you know, an otherwise unblemished U.S. ideal. And I think that's what she represents. And again, we're not trying to beat up on young folks, and you know, for the poetry lobby, for the poetry industrial complex, poetry is cool, like we spoken word, Def Jam, whatever, like it's cool. But you know, and it's also like, you know, you know, we're always the performers too, right? That's the other thing too. We're always the mammies and the entertainers of empire
all the time. Yep. We always saving folks. We singing for folks. We, you know, reciting poetry that makes them feel comfortable. That makes them feel like we're not angry at them for all the shit you've done. That's the other thing that her poem kind of did. And it's what a whole lot of Black folk do, what you brilliantly call the niggerati. I'm stealing that. That is so good. I mean, these Black people get in these positions of affluence and influence to some degree, and their job is to make white people feel comfortable that we're not angry at them. So this is the other reason why they don't represent us, aside from, the class contradiction, and aside from, the ideology, the departure in ideology. They also have no connection with us, so they don't know that there is palpable anger in the streets among the masses, and the anger is from the perpetual injustice and oppression and exploitation. So, they're able to stand in front of a bunch of white people and be like, we'll rise and be benevolent. And we're in the streets less than 10 miles away from the Capitol, by the way, less than 10 miles away from the inauguration, in the poorest neighborhood in the city, in the blackest neighborhood in the city. Like, y'all niggas ain't never been benevolent. So how are you going to start to do, so, I mean, it is this idea of democracy, that we have to defend democracy because, if it's something that we don't have, then it's something that we should be aspiring to. I don't see how we do that when we don't even understand that the people who are telling us that, they know this is not a democracy. They know this.
They know it's not. And, part of what, I talk a lot about Oliver Cox, and he's not the only one to say this, but you cannot have any political democracy without economic democracy. And we see this in real time. We see the PACs and the super PACs. We see the ways in which, Wall Street funds politicians. We see the ways in which the 1% funds politicians, and politicians are indeed, if not the 1%, the 5% and the 10%. We always forget about them. We let them off the hook with this 1% discourse. Fuck them too. 5%, 10%, 15%, all of it. Let's not forget about them, right? And so we have a Congress of millionaires, okay? And that is not democracy, because I have never seen a rich person act in good faith on behalf of poor and working people. Never. Like, there might be some, Paul Robeson was doing it, then they took all his money. So I don't know. But I have never seen this, right? He also wasn't a politician. And so that's something else that we need to keep in mind, that this is a republic, right? It's a representative democracy. But, and so the thing that really blows me about, like, the Biden administration, for example, is not just like the rainbow empire that he's assembling, but the fact that it's like, we want the administration to look like America. We're broke.
Right. Ain't no broke people in his administration.
None. And you know who I want to be over labor, over housing, over transportation is people who have to use that shit. People who have to live in public housing. People who have to take public transportation. People who have to actually work very, very hard for a living, producing stuff. Those are the people that actually want making those decisions, because they know the questions to ask. They know where to look, and they know where to put that money. And more importantly, we know how to make something out of nothing.
Exactly.
Balance that budget. Get some people who
got a broke person to balance the budget.
Okay.
Get a broke person. You want to figure out how to allocate housing more fairly and get somebody who lives in Section 8 to hand. But see, the system can't do that, because the system doesn't actually, and this is why, going right back to what we talked about in the beginning, this is why we can't be celebrating the FBI or the Securities and Exchange Commission, because none of these agencies exist to actually do anything for the masses of people. They exist to uphold the hegemony and the power of the capitalist system and the state that is propped up on it. Woo! Man.
The one other thing that I want to say about the celebration of that Amanda Gorman poem is that they don't think we can do any better. So they're all like, Black mediocrity is called Black excellence, because they don't care. it's fun. That's the thing about, Black fungibility, right? Is that they're like, it's good enough. It's some Black shit. Like, they don't care. This is what they will have. Susan Rice. What? She's the head of domestic something, some sort of domestic policy, and it's like, she don't know shit about that. That's just as bad as having Ben Carson be over HUD. And she was horrible at foreign policy. Like, what is it? The domestic secretary? I don't know what the name of her title is, but I know she don't need to have it. But again, it's like, as long as there's a Black in there, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter.
I think that is a problem. They don't take us seriously. And so as much as they celebrate Black women and we owe Black women everything, and the Black women saved democracy again, they don't give a fuck about that. But also because we keep saving them.
That's where I was going to go. That's where I was going to go. I mean, because it's like, on the one hand, they straight keep playing in our faces. Yeah, they do. But on the other hand, I mean, we keep letting them. I mean, and not we by, the those of us on this stream, but Black people in general. I mean, people actually twisted their minds around to make themselves believe that they had to vote for Joe Biden this time, despite his horrendous record and how his policies impacted us. Look, I don't know about the rest of y'all, but I have family members who are still struggling with crack addiction because of what Reagan did and what Biden and Clinton did in response. Not giving anybody any help, but criminalizing people for the results of a policy that they put in place so that they could crush a bunch of communists in Nicaragua that the people wanted now. That the people in Nicaragua wanted. The people wanted the Sandinista government, but because they were communists, Reagan was like, oh no. And I don't care if we make money by selling drugs and all those drugs end up in the neighborhoods of Black and brown and poor people. Fuck them. That's what they did. And nobody went to prison for it. And what did Clinton and Biden come along and do? They criminalized the people who were the victims of that. And I still got family members struggling with that shit. Meanwhile, people who are struggling with opioid crisis, they get a lawsuit and a class action settlement, and some sympathy and compassion and treatment. But somehow people convinced ourselves that we had to vote for Joe Biden because Donald Trump was so much worse. And I mean, I don't know. How do you not keep playing in the faces of people who are just like, okay, if you're just going to take anything I do and not push back on it, all right, I'm just going to keep doing it.
Yeah. I mean, and this is why we charge genocide. Like exactly what you described about crack, that's genocidal. When you dump poison into a community, leave them to die and fend for themselves, and criminalize the ways in which they fend for themselves, that's genocide. So, so I think that we need that energy. We need that we charge genocide energy back. We need that people-centered human rights energy back. And Joe Biden, as I say, more dust than man, more mummy than leader. Like, I'm on his head. All administration, Kamala too. I'm on their head because I'm not a Bernie bro, whatever. But the way that they did him in the primary, the way that the Democratic National Convention stepped in and interfered in the process, was it in Iowa? To ensure that Mayo Pete
I mean,
won that caucus. And then you got Clyburn. Then you got Clyburn.
I got family in South Carolina that don't talk to me to this day because I was like, y'all let Uncle Ruckus Clyburn convince y'all not to vote for Medicare for all that your sick asses need. What the fuck? Are you serious?
And then had the nerve. Okay, so and then he knew no socialist. Okay.
Oh.
And then had the nerve to get mad that Biden wasn't putting enough blacks in the administration. After he
Right.
did all that work, he hobbled along and whipped up the vote. Then he got mad that Biden, he had the very nerve that Biden was treating him the way he tried to treat black socialists.
Well, Massa, I did what you asked me to do, Massa. I did. I delivered the black vote for you, Massa, and I made sure that evil socialist didn't get the nomination, Massa. So now, I come to collect. And Biden was like, yeah, okay, anyway.
So this is where we at. You see?
This is where we at.
So Clyburn with his black boy magic, I guess, his black man magic. Let me not disrespect our elders. Our black elder magic came in and did what he had to do and whipped up the vote, and here we are. And Jackie, I just want better for us. I want that we'll want better for ourselves.
Ashe. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so, I know I go hard on the Keisha Lance Bottoms and the Muriel Bowsers and and Stacey Abrams, who's a newfound hero. Okay, that's fine. But we have to understand that it's literally that class or that group of black folks or the radical left group. It can't be both and. Like, it's never going to be. Mm-hmm. And so I think that because that's the way that it is. That's how it has always been with black people, right? You can have one or two or a couple, or you can have one strain of belief, and that's it. And so I really, really, really think we have to, Ricky pointed out in her talk on January 26th, the BAP talk, that the Kwame Ture quote that we need relentless class struggle.
Yes, indeed.
There you go.
It must be ruthless.
Ruthless.
And it must
exactly what I was saying. We need ruthless class struggle. And it's like, they don't have to be our enemies, but we do not have to celebrate them. We don't have to love them. And we don't have to listen or respect them or give them anything in any way. They deserve nothing from us.
Not a thing.
They deserve nothing from us. And so that's my perspective. And I think that we need to, we don't have time. Things are dire. Like, we are under duress. And I think that needs to be the attitude that we approach. So. Somebody said Clyde Butter Biscuits, Leah.
There it is. I was looking for questions. I was looking in the chat to see if anybody had any questions before we roll out of here. But ain't nobody had no questions. Y'all been over here in the chat clowning. Y'all are terrible. Y'all are so great. I mean, aside from, organize. Oh, somebody asked a little bit up earlier. Somebody did ask a question. I think Kenda asked to explain the house when I was talking about casinos. Well, a house is the casino. You go into a casino and, they say the house always wins. The casino always wins. This is how casinos stay in business. Casinos don't stay in business because they let people keep winning all their money. Casinos stay in business by letting you win a little bit and thinking that you're winning something. But in reality, the casino, the house, rigs the game, and they use the same methods that they will kick you out of the casino to do it. Like, you go into a casino and you have this like statistical method that you could use to count cards to beat at blackjack. And they find out you're counting cards and they will bar you from the casino. But that's the same statistics that they use to make sure they win most of the hands. So they win most of the money. That's the house. The capitalist system is exactly the same. That it's practically, the stock market is the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. So that's what I do. So we do have a couple questions in here. Aj asked, what are your thoughts on cryptocurrency? I'm always having controversies with people, and people end up stop talking to me because I don't buy into their bullshit. And yeah, the conversation I had with some people about cryptocurrency being a revolutionary financial thing was one of those conversations. But what are your thoughts on cryptocurrency?
Listen, I got my money and underneath my mattress. Okay, don't ask me nothing about nothing sophisticated. I'm just out here. I'm just out here hoarding my money under a mattress. But it's interesting that something, I read something that said that there is, that it's possible that the US dollar will be devalued by 50% by July of 2021. As the EU and China and other countries move away from the dollar and prop up the euro and other currencies. That's a big deal. And we need to think about that, because when you look globally and you look at what happens when currencies are devalued, what happens is hyperinflation. And that, so there's a lot of that will come with that. And so I don't know if cryptocurrency is the response, but I think any of these stopgap measures within the economic system that we have is a problem. I don't know enough about currency. I don't know enough about no cryptocurrency. Let me stop. I did see that question about the 2000 versus 1400. That shit is raggedy. That we call the academic term for that is an okie doke.
Is that that's the scientific term?
That's a scientific term. It was like, yeah, we got these 2 racks. But by 2 racks, we mean $1,400. You already got the $600 down payment, and they really,
right. Oh yeah,
$600 down payment.
Right. No, he's like, no. When I said that the $600 was a down payment, I really meant that. I really meant that you're gonna get this $600, and then what I give you later on, that's gonna equal the $2,000. That's what he really said, that with a straight face. Ooh. So the question about cryptocurrency is interesting, because remember that in this country, in this system, any financial vehicle is, if it's traded on the stock market, if it is involved in U.S. banking at all, it is a part of the capitalist system. So
that includes black banks. Somebody's asking questions about what do we think about buying black?
Yes, somebody asked that.
Buying black is rooted in the system that is built on buying blacks. So I'll just leave it there. Okay.
Capitalism. It's capitalism.
It's not going to save us. It's not only capitalism. It's a dependent parasitic form of it's like capitalism. It's like the redheaded stepchild of the rented mule of capitalism. So that's for me.
Wow. Yeah. Closed Circuit said to read Jared Ball. Absolutely. Read Jared Ball's The Myth and Propaganda of Black Buying Power. Gotta read that book. And speaking of books, Dr. Cherise Bernstelli, before we go, recommend some books for the people to read so they can get that political education.
Sure. So the 3, I've been reading this book, Political Economy of the Black Ghetto. Interestingly, I was reading this book because Kamala Harris's father, Donald Harris, actually wrote a critique of this. So he was a radical economist. I don't know what happened to her, but so, it's all right. The Political Economy of the Black Ghetto. I think that I recommend any books just getting familiar with the internal colonialism thesis, one of which is this one, Black Awakening in Capitalist America. Robert Allen was on my qualifying exam committees, and he writes about internal neocolonialism. But I think that the concept of internal colonialism is worth revisiting. It's not that you have to adopt it wholesale, but I think that it's something that many people don't know about. These are just books I got. I just have random stacks of books around all the time. This, of course, Race, Class, and the World System. This is a primer on Oliver Cox. Y'all know I'm Cox all 2021. So I recommend that one. And then this is a really, really good book about the rise of a particular brand of U.S. fascism in the United States in the 1920s and 1930s. It's called The Coming of the American Behemoth, The Origins of Fascism in the United States, 1920 to 1940, by Michael Joseph Roberto. It's really, 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 really good. In terms of just people to read, somebody mentioned Jared Ball's book, The Myth and Propaganda of Black Buying Power. I highly recommend that. The Black Agenda Review actually released a year in books where we have 10 books that we highly recommend. All of those on that list. Claudia Jones, anything by Claudia Jones, especially, the one that people dip their toes in first is usually An End to the Neglect of the Problems of the Negro Woman. I think we need to, so it's interesting, right? I recommend that we read up on Garveyism and the Garvey movement.
Yes.
what is it? Black Lives Matter was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize, and I saw a tweet where they said that they were the largest movement in history. I believe it was the Garvey movement.
That is an ahistorical. Oh,
I believe it's the Garvey movement.
It is. So, it was the Garvey movement. Yeah. Well, because it still exists. Yes.
Yeah. And so so just reading up on that, I highly recommend checking out the Black Alliance for Peace website. We will have a reading list soon. The research committee is working on that, but just get familiarized with any articles that are linked there. All of those things I think are great for political education. So,
and once again, tell people where they can find you, where they can follow you, where they can support you.
You can find me with Black Alliance for Peace, blackallianceforpeace.org. Yes. I am on Twitter and I am on Instagram, Black Left AF. My website is dr-cbs.com. So that is where you can find me. A lot of profanity. Sometimes I use big words. Apparently that's offensive to folks, but yes, all of these. Oh, Cabral. Yep. I was just reading some Sankara today. Thomas Sankara. You slept.
Yeah. I found one of my Thomas Sankara books, and my husband had tucked it away in his little other room. We have to read in separate rooms because we end up like getting to a section that really hits us, and we like talk to each other about it, and that drives me crazy. So
yeah. So listen to podcasts too. So like, I think reading is fundamental, but there are podcasts, there are short blog read Hood Communist, period.
Yes.
Read Hood Communist, there are short blog posts, there are articles. So if you don't have a lot of time, or if you're just getting into reading, definitely do audiobooks, podcasts, but get this information, get this good knowledge. It's out here. All you gotta do is get it. So,
Dr. Cherise Bernstelli, thank you so much for joining me tonight, for talking about capitalism and democracy. And we are going to keep struggling. Thank you all so much, you all in the chat, for joining us. We appreciate you so much. Excuse me. Share this video with your friends. Share this video with your capitalist family members and friends who you don't like, so they too can get an education, because we must build a working class and poor movement to struggle against this system. And it has to be seriously steeped in, a clear class consciousness. We have to be ruthless about it, and it must be international. Everything we do has to be toward the liberation of our people. So we thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate you. And as always, be really, really good to each other, y'all. And I say to you, peace, if you are willing to fight for it.
Period.
Oh, there we go. And cool.
I had them all now. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I had them all down before I dial up. How they claiming they on top when I'm a mile up. I know the wall's closing in, but don't you dare give up now. Hope believed in me, pull up through some bucks down. Tired till the valet pull the truck round. Push the line after we drew it, it's just us now. Would you believe me if I told you my granny told me she prayed this? Then booked the surgery just to pull me out of the basement. Right back where I started, nothing to show for a facelift. Got pushed playing Walter White and Davis, never felt so dangerous. The type of power they can't quantify.